6:09, the meeting is now called to order. Mr. Gonzalez, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Item number 3, establishment of quorum.
Rene Rodriguez,
Here.
Cesar Nevares,
Here.
Ralph Duran,
Here.
Mayor Elia Garcia,
Here.
Victor Perez is absent, and Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Here.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Item number 4, public comment.
Our first speaker is Cel Chagoya. Mr. Chagoya, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I want to point out some things that I like and some things that I don't like. Some things that I do like, Chief Burden for taking action on the request and actually responding to my request within minutes. Another thing that I like is seeing that police officers are patrolling the communities. Another thing that I like is putting a reminder on social media on the no parking signage regarding the kermeses that are coming up. And if there's a violation, one will be ticketed and be towed. This is what I have been requesting from my district rep too, and for the city manager to do when it comes to semi-trucks on residential properties and to add sidewalk obstructions. So I think this is something that can be done very easy. I mean, if we're able to do it for the kermes, we could do it on the semi-trucks, which we have identified that there's a huge problem, and I just don't understand why it cannot get done. Also, another thing that I've noticed that I've liked are the blue containers that are being placed in the different communities where constituents are able to clean up their properties. I'm also seeing more constituents reporting on the city source app. So those are really good things that are happening around here. Things that I don't like, again, I reported this to my district rep too, to meet with city manager to identify and to contact property owners who have abandoned buildings to start cleaning up their properties. For example, the corner of Moon Road and North Loop, fireworks stands have been there for the past 11 years. The One-Eyed Jack has 2 buildings which I recall being abandoned since 1996 across from Food King Shopping Center. There's a brown building and a house across from the post office that has been abandoned as well too. And I really do feel that Socorro needs to start getting cleaned up. I just went to Horizon the other day, and I was amazed how clean Horizon City looks for. The disclaimer on the city app that now reads it's not being monitored 24/7, and the application is being used for administrative purposes only. So what I take is that the city is saying thank you for reporting an issue, but we will look at your issue whenever we can. Also, the app has removed previous requests, and I don't think it should be removed. The city needs to be transparent. The city lagged time to take action on requests. For instance, Valle Negro signage finally made it to the backup plan after 18 weeks. I reported a pothole on Passmore, and it has taken about 3 weeks just to get it looked at.
Mr. Chagoya, your time is up.
Thank you.
Miriam Cruz. Ms. Cruz, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I have to agree with Sal. There's a lot of abandoned properties that we probably need to be cleaning up in Socorro. Not just the streets and beautifying, properties of the city, but especially those that stand out, those that are standalone buildings. And yeah, about removing the reports from the app. What's that about? I'm not really sure why we're doing that. If it's about data, then maybe make a form where we can download the our report, and that way we can keep track of it. But I don't know. That's just an idea. I'm glad to have another community member up here who's been attending frequently. I'm really excited that Sal has been coming, and I hope more people come. I had requested a long time ago that meetings be shared on social media. That's not something that's being done. I know that a lot of events are shared on social media, but I think it would continue to be very helpful to create a calendar, whether it's on the website or on Facebook, to make sure that people on social media are aware that these meetings are happening, that they're welcome. I think they should feel welcome to come and share their opinions and their ideas. I don't think that that's something that we should keep out of the public eye, even though we're doing our part by putting it outside this building and sharing it on the website after clicking after so many things to actually find the agenda. I think it would be helpful as a reminder to have a calendar with all of the meetings that are listed, just like the county does. The county has a nice calendar. It has all the meetings that happen all the time with the times and places where they are held at. I think we could learn from that. Also, it would be helpful to share that meetings are canceled, so that some of us don't show up, to meetings when they're canceled. So that would be helpful too, on social media. I want to reiterate that there's still speeding happening on Stockyard. I spoke to Ms. Rodarte. There seems to be that some data information that I'll be able to hopefully gather from Chief Burden when he comes back, or maybe some sort of update that he can give me. But there's still a lot of speeding, and there's a lot of 18-wheelers driving by there with their load at high speeds, at an area where, one, it's summer, so a lot of kids are staying at home. They're walking to the park in the evenings, especially because, the sun has to go down. And not only that, but there's a lot of people, getting their exercise in. People walking their children in strollers, and a family size.
Ms. Cruz,
So
your time is up.
I hope we can continue to address speeding on Stockyard. Thank you.
Danny Sanchez. Mr. Sanchez, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, I'm Danny Sanchez with Socorro Towing. We had a meeting a week ago with some of the chief and all of them about these other towing companies that you all are bringing in. Socorro doesn't have that much use for all these towing companies, so everybody is sitting idle. I have been here since Socorro started. I have been servicing Socorro since then. And then Parra came in, they took him out, then now Fusion. But we noticed that we have 2 others that were also put in, and we were talking to Mr. Duran and Adrian about this, and I don't know what you all found out on that, but I was also talking about the stuff that needs to be done when the officers are out on an accident, to make sure that whoever is working an accident picks up the debris, because the city is looking pretty bad. And a lot of people come to me and say, hey, you worked something, you didn't pick up the trash. So I have referred this to the sergeant and now the chief, see if something is done there. Dan, you know. So right now I need to, did you find out anything on what we were gonna discuss? That's why I came, to see if anything was done there.
We'll discuss your item on number 10. Right now, it's just for your comment. We cannot answer questions.
Okay. And also we had discussed that when we are called out, that they're canceling us out, even though we're en route. And that was never supposed to happen like that. I've called the dispatch and I've asked them, and I don't know how. Just the other day, I went to an accident, and when I showed up, Extreme Towing was already loading up. but the dispatch dispatched us. So that stuff like that is not supposed to happen. We discussed that one time, that we wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning just to go all the way down there and then get canceled out because somebody wasn't paying attention to what they were doing. And
Mr. Sanchez, your time is up.
thank you.
Daniel Vargas. Mr. Vargas, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Daniel Vargas. I represent Fusion Towing. I'm here to talk to you about the city ordinance, the rotation list for the towing companies. As Mr. Sanchez mentioned, there isn't enough work in the city of Socorro to warrant more towing companies. I understand that the city has the option to open it, but if you really stop and look at it, the towing ordinance hasn't been revised in years. We looked at it, we discussed part of it. I mean, some of the stuff that you guys have in that ordinance, for example, there's a section that says that the towing company must have an office in order to be on rotation. I believe Roger Alba doesn't have an office in Socorro. And even if he did, I mean, shouldn't it read, should have a yard? Because, I mean, I can rent a cubicle in some building and say that's my towing office and take the car all the way to Northeast and have the citizens of Socorro drive all that extra mileage to go get their car. You know, we as a towing company tow in Socorro. We spend our money in Socorro. I believe that the money should stay in Socorro, not in Horizon, not in Clint, where the other towing companies are from. I mean, if you're in an accident, you already had a tragic moment in your life, and then you still have to drive all the way to the end by the landfill to go get your car or go see it. I mean, I don't think it's fair to the citizens of Socorro to be tagged that way. We as towing companies in Socorro, we pride ourselves in what we do here for the citizens. Grant you, some might not agree to it as far as the pricing go, but you as city councilmen, and this was previous to you guys, set the rates. If you look at your ordinance, you guys are telling us that we can charge up to $500 for an accident. I mean, we don't do it because we take that into consideration as far as the citizens of Socorro. But that's something that you guys should take into consideration. All of you guys were voted into this office to look out for the best of these citizens. And you guys having towing companies that belong to El Paso or out of the city isn't in the best interest of the citizens. So we're basically here to ask you to please look at it. And if you're gonna let other companies come in, well, have them do the same thing we do. Keep the money here in Socorro. Because that money that we spend at the tire shops, at the auto parts stores to maintain our trucks,
Mr. Vargas, your time is up.
thank you.
Mayor, those were all our speakers.
Item number 5, presentation by city manager regarding May's 2019 monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to provide you some highlights for the month of May that our departments worked on. Our Municipal Courts Department collected $55,968, received 416 citations from Socorro PD, 10 citations from DPS, and 51 ordinance violations. Our HR Department had 2 employees out on FMLA, one from Police Department and the other one from Public Works. We had 0 employees out on workers' comp. We had no civil service meeting for the month of May. There was no agenda items. We had 0 separations. There was 2 new hires in May, a dispatcher, Jericho Dominguez, and Denise Herrera from a recreation leader. Our city clerk department prepared agendas and minutes for May 2nd and May 16th, received 46 open records requests and responded to 38, prepared 6 publications, public hearings for ordinances, and an ambulance service RFP. Parks and Public Works Department cleaned up neighborhoods Hueletka, Rancho Mirival, Worsham, Flor del Rio subdivision, Socorro Mission subdivision, Sheffield neighborhood, and Bauman Estates. They replaced 14 street signs they repaired, removed, or replaced, or installed. Continued to maintenance ponds at Stockyard to prepare for monsoon season. Maintenance on Thunder, Horizon, Regina, and Bovey through Socorro Road to prepare for irrigation season. Prepared the splash park for opening season, which began on Memorial Day weekend. The main road maintenance, they did Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road and Horizon Boulevard. Continue to maintain and mow and groom all city parks and ponding areas. Our police department received 2,341 calls in the month of May. They created the first Citizen Academy, began on Tuesday, May 28th. There are 12 participants graduating on August the 6th. Criminal Investigation Unit worked on 2 missing person cases. Both were located and returned home safely. Officers continue to attend trainings to keep them in compliance with certifications with TCLO requirements. Our planning and zoning collected $30,049 in the month of May, issued 249 permits, 39 registrations, 7 applications, and 34 letters. Code enforcement gave out 214 notice of violations. 199 of them complied, 33 citations were issued. Our Recreations Department on May 11th had the Rojas Wellness Day, May 17th Art Show Reception, May 22nd Film Festival, May 23rd Senior Citizen Art Class, partnership with Centro San Vicente, and they had a Historical Land Commission meeting on May 23rd. They heard 5 cases were presented and 3 were approved, 2 items were tabled. Kept up with all social media platforms and media inquiries. Our IT department prepped for Micro's leave request implementation, modified public engagement pages for the website. Socorro PD unit computers were upgraded, prepped for Socorro PD body-worn cameras implementation, and troubleshooted all IT-related issues for the city departments. Our grants department final compliance response to the Texas CDBG grant, assisted administration with the development of the RFP for the ambulance services provider, attended and received certification in the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development environment review process, and continues to work with various departments for grant assistance. This concludes the highlights for our departments. I don't know if you have any questions? No? Thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a correction, I'm sorry.
Ms. Elos?
Yes, there's a correction, I apologize, on the minutes, and if you don't mind, I will send you an email on it, is that okay? Yeah, it has to pertain the way I voted, and so it was a little.
which item it is.
Okay, I will, just for that purposes, is that okay?
We need to correct it.
We have to know right now?
Say which
Okay.
item.
Yes.
Okay, so then I'll withdraw my motion and table it for the next council meeting.
Thank you.
Well, could, I'm sorry, Mayor. Could
Mr.
just
Perez?
specifically just take out the minutes, not to put on the minutes, and then you can.
Yeah, that's what we're doing for the minutes.
So we're just gonna table the minutes.
The minutes,
Yes,
yes.
the minutes.
Mhm.
Can
Thank
I
you.
have a second?
Second.
Rene Rodriguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lopez.
Yes.
And for the record, Mr. Perez arrived to the meeting at 6:26.
Sorry for the delay, it was just a lot of work still.
Item number 9, Discussion and action on the plat approval for Parker subdivision, being all of tracks 4C2 and 4C5B, Block 3, Socorro Grant, to plat the property boundaries to create 2 lots. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve for discussion.
Second?
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. Mike Lean, I'm the city planner. So before you is a request to split a property into 2 plats here. So let me go, this is the city limits, there's the area. Let me focus in. And essentially there it's at. It is abutted by Parker Road. And so the request here, sorry about that. The request here is to split the lot down this path as it is. So in your backup, it describes one lot that is 1.4, which is lot 1, which is the one down here. And then lot 2 is the one that has a smaller square footage. So as a correction to the background, that's what I'm identifying. Lot 1 again is down here, which has the greatest amount of square footage, the 1.4. And the one above it is lot 2, just for clarification. But the plat does have the correct information. This item has gone to both the commissioners, and the department also made a recommendation for approval.
So, no, it's just, I'm sorry. It's just
Mr.
that,
Perez?
on the map here, it just looked like they might be landlocked, but no, I see that it's,
No.
What is it?
It's abutted by Parker Road
Parker?
and
Yeah.
Leopard, I believe. Yes. So it does have access.
All right, thank you.
To approve.
I have a question, I'm sorry.
Ms. Villalobos?
On the,
No, they're approved.
on the subdivision of fees, this is not the fee, this is just a fee for everyone, correct? If I'm not mistaken, doesn't mean it's a fee, because I'm seeing a parkland fee, and I wanted to see what that was about, that very last page.
So, yes, so this is part of the package that comes along when there's a request to subdivide. So these are the fees in respect to the department. So in the event that you want a variance request, that this will go to the BOA, so because it's residential, it's $100, and et cetera.
Okay,
So this is departmental fees.
okay, but it has nothing to, this land has nothing to do with the park?
No.
It's just, okay. All right. This is just a schedule they get, correct?
Correct. It's
Okay.
part of, again, an application that the department gives every applicant.
Thank you.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Joel Duran.
Yes.
Victor Pérez.
Aye.
Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 10, discussion and action to direct staff on amending ordinance 334 for operation of tow trucks. Mr. Duran?
I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to amend or make recommendations for amending ordinance number 354 for operation of tow trucks. 334. Okay, there you go, my glasses. 334.
Second.
Question.
Mr. Perez?
So then what, is this out of date, or?
Okay. Well, I mean, we had a meeting, and Chief Burton had made the suggestion that if you're gonna tow in Socorro, the vehicle should stay in Socorro, and that's not on the ordinance. And it also, it has calls for being reviewed twice a year, which it has not been reviewed. So these are things that need to be updated on there.
Do we,
Mr. Perez?
do we currently have a repository or depository for the vehicles in Socorro?
Yes, so we have a impound for us, and
Right.
that's just for items that are part of the crime, that go into ours. And then we were currently using Socorro towing and Fusion towing
Mr. Rodriguez?
Okay, so, I don't know how, or I should say, I'm just gonna be clear, okay, from what I know. So, Mr. Duran, what you're trying to clear, and just to clarify for all of us is, when you say you want the money to stay in Socorro is, then you wanna get rid of the ETJ ability for any towing company in the ETJ not to be in the ordinance, for one. That's what I'm taking, what you're wanting to do. Two, I heard the concerns and what they were saying about cleaning. I think that we should if we're going to amend this ordinance, I think we should look and make everybody that's gonna be towing in our city to clean the accidents, whether they do it now or not. Haven't seen it, but El Paso does it. It's a requirement. I think we should do it too and address that as well. The other thing that I wrote down here is that I understand that there's not a lot of accidents in Socorro, and I guess what we need to look at is the possibility of probably looking into bidding it just like El Paso does. You know, if we're talking about being fair and trying to be to where there's not enough for everybody, and yet we're gonna add more people to the cycle, I think that, you know, we will run into a problem where dispatch might call the wrong vendor the next time. You know, those are issues that we have to address. The other thing is, if we don't look into the possibility of bids, just to have one company do it, you know, that's one way to get rid of the situation. The other thing is just do, I know that El Paso does it, I know that Dallas does it, I know that Irvin does it, and they have a list of 3 vendors, you know, and they'll use those. You know, they'll take the top 3 and they say, hey, what can you provide the services? And, you know, we just might keep it at 3. There's no reason why we should have 6 or 7, 8 vendors. You know, I don't like the idea of keeping it here in Socorro because we can't do that. You know, but I think that these are services that we do have. We just might create a list if we don't want to go out for bids and just have one. And the other thing is look for fees as well. Look for fees and see if we can add to the ability to add $15 to city fees as well for the towing, for purposes for, you know, budget. So those are things that I would like to see addressed to be more precise, you know, but we do have to look into and see what is better for our constituents as well. I like what the gentleman said is, you know, they're already devastated in an accident, you know, you're shocked, you know, and then to go to the west side or go to northeast and stuff, I mean, it's just, you're adding another burden to our residents. So I understand, and it's an issue that we need to address, but I also would want to add and see possibly change it is, look at this twice a year. I think that is redundant. I think we don't need that. I think that we can go out and check it every 2 years instead of 1 and just try to see it that way. So those are just the issues that I just want to look at and see what else you guys think of.
Mr. Arte?
All I wanted to add, Lieutenant Smith just added that the ETJ is something that's state mandated. It's not something that we can remove. It's mandated by the state. I don't know, what is Officer Smith? He wants to go ahead and add anything else?
Okay, you see? You didn't know?
I'm sorry. Can you explain how that works, the ETJ?
The ETJ is the surrounding area, so it's 2-mile radius, right? However, in some circumstances, it can go up to 5-mile radius, and that's because we're a border state.
So the ETJ essentially is territory that a municipality has claim to. So in this case is that it is 2.5 miles, and that is by prescription of population. The other one that we have is an extension of 5 miles, and that's given to us by the state legislators because we border another nation. So in totality is that we have a 2.5 that is based on population, and in totality, a 5-1 because of the state legislators.
Ms. Villalobos?
No, go ahead, I'll go after you, that's okay.
Mr. Perez?
Just so that I can understand, if we're asking for the operators of the tow trucks, of the towing business, for example, those that are the NTJ, we're going to require them to have a car corral within the city. I don't understand how that's going to work.
Mr. Duran?
From what the meeting we had, and Chief agreed with me, that if you're gonna tow a car in, it doesn't matter if they are, well, now we've settled the ETJ problem, because it's state law. If they wanna have a business here, they should leave the cars here, not tow them to Clint. I mean, like you said, they've already had an accident, and then having to go all the way to Clint to go pick up your vehicle, or wherever they have their yard. I think if you know, and then I think they also have to maintain, according to the ordinance, a 24-hour, you have to be able to go get your vehicle within 24 hours, or available to go get it for 24 hours a day. And also in the ordinance, it does say that the fees have to be reviewed twice a year. That's, that's in the ordinance already. So I mean, if we have to rethink it, then so be it. But the concerns that they have, I kind of agree with them. I mean,
When you say them, who
the meeting that we had with 3 tow truck drivers. Okay, they brought up the cleaning, which should be a given. I mean, if you're gonna make money off them, you should clean up your mess. And I think that you should also be able to get your vehicle any time of the day or night. And I think that's also in the ordinance too. But this thing of having to go out of the city to go get your vehicle, I don't think is right. I think that they should have yards in the city of Socorro to make it convenient for convenient for our citizens. I don't know, in El Paso, you have to go way the heck out to Dyer Street. That to me is not right. I mean, 3 of the tow truck companies have yards in Socorro.
Right.
So, I mean, if we make it so that all of them, if you want to do business in Socorro, well, you can do business in Socorro, but regarding accidents, that's what the ordinance covers. Now, if you want to call El Paso Towing and have to come and get your vehicle in Socorro, you can do that. We're not regulating them.
I think that.
What this ordinance is just for accidents where
Right.
the police department is involved with regards to towing. And they have a wheel right now, where you pick up the one, you get at the bottom of the wheel and until you come up again,
Right.
which I think is fair.
I think.
Mr.
I'm
Perez?
sorry, go ahead and make your comment.
Okay.
Ms.
First-
Villalobos?
First of all, I want to understand, when an accident comes in and police, I guess police are the first to report that they need a towing vehicle, where does that phone call go to? Okay, and your dispatch has a rotating list that they work off already? They know how, they have a rotating list?
So it's in the system, right? So what we had talked about is if a person gets called, right? However, they're in transit and another towing truck arrives to the scene. Because either the other person wanted another tow truck and they want, so then that call gets canceled. So they'll remain on the top of the list, right? Until they pick up and they hook, then they can go back. And that was one of their arguments, is stating that, I mean, they're already en route and then the call gets canceled. But those are just regulations that are done by the state, that once they hook, then you can't cancel it, but they have to hook.
Okay.
And those are the things that we have to go back
And
and
I'm sorry, I'm not done.
see what we can, require of them
Okay,
in order for that not to happen.
And on that rotating list, there's only 3 companies?
Right now, I think we have four.
4? 4 rotating companies.
We've had two for a very long time, and we just started working, applications started coming in, and the rotation is, we added to
Mhm,
that,
mhm.
and that's why these other two towing companies came to Mr. Brown to.
Okay. And so, give me a second, then we'll ask to see if you can come back up here. So I'm trying to, do we have to have just a list of just, 2 or 3 or 4? Or can we just have a list and give everybody the opportunity?
Correct, so right now what you have is an ordinance
Mhm.
that gives us a direction of, okay, you're applying this, these are the qualifications that you have to meet in
Mhm.
order to be added to that list,
Okay,
right?
right.
So they come in, there's an application, they fill it out, Sergeant Kuste, I think is the one that goes out to the field, makes sure that everything is being met.
Okay,
And then they, are added or they're denied, right?
Mhm.
The acceptance, but
Okay.
it's pretty much open if you're meeting those requirements. But right now, as the ordinance states, is for you have to be in the city, within the city, or in the ETJ.
okay.
Okay,
Either or.
please understand that because we have state troopers, we have sheriffs, if they stop, they use their own rotation list. So if you see another towing company, they're able to use
Whoever.
whoever they have in their rotation list.
Okay.
So
All right.
sometimes you'll see, and if the officer doesn't stay behind, like the sheriff or the state troopers don't stay behind to make sure that they clean the accident,
Mm.
that's when you kind of see, and then you can call the sheriff's department and make them aware.
Yes.
This is
Okay.
what-
Okay. Okay, thank you for answering.
I don't know if, Lieutenant Smith wants to add anything else.
Mayor,
Mr. Rodriguez?
before, our lieutenant speaks, I just wanna say that the customer, the guy in the accident has the ability to say, I want my own towing truck. So I understand that maybe you get canceled and you're already en route, but they have that ability to do it. And that's what I was, letting one of my colleagues know, is that we don't do it, and like we said, you will still remain on the call. So don't worry about that. If you get canceled, it's because they required somebody else's services. And that's something that we can't deny them, you know?
Now that the accident is on the road, we have to clear it up. They cannot wait for another record to show up private. Now, if it's off the road, yeah, you can.
And we're gonna address that issue as well. But I just wanted to clarify that this, sometimes that's what happens, and that's what the reason for a cancellation. So, but we'll address those issues.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Lieutenant Smith with the Police Department. As far as the tow companies, the chief met with Fusion and Socorro Towing, and there were a couple of issues that he was unaware of, we were unaware of. As far as the canceling of a tow company, and I've explained this to Ariel, and I apologize, didn't explain it to you, Danny, but as if they're canceled for any reason, they will remain number 1 on the list. They don't go to the bottom of the list. So we've already discussed that with our dispatchers. So if they are canceled, they will remain number 1 on the list. So the next time another incident comes up, they will call that towing company. And I guess in the past, they thought that they would just put them at the bottom of the list because they were called, so they moved them to the next. So that has already been rectified. And I believe on the one issue that Danny was talking about, that they had requested their own towing company before the officer had gotten there. The towing company got there before Danny did, so they canceled them. So that was a miscommunication between the officer and the guy in the accident. But that has been rectified since. So we will make sure that if they are canceled for any reason, that they will remain at the number 1 on the list for the next call.
Mr. Perez?
But I think there has to be a consideration that if, to Mr. Sanchez's point, that if there's debris in the middle of the roadway and it presents a traffic hazard, then the tow truck that arrives first gets the remains with that service call and picks up the debris, because that to me is more pressing than waiting for my private tow truck or wherever I want to come over. Plus, I can understand, since it's a 24-hour business, it's a kick in the pants to be there at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning and say, you know what, that's it, you can go back. And so, because these are small businesses, and only because I know Mr. Sanchez, he's been doing business for a long time, he's the only one that operates the tow truck. And so that's kind of hard to get up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, get ready, go out, and then say, you know what, we don't need your services. That's one aspect of it. But the other aspect is the safety of people that are traveling the roadway at the time when the accident happens, that there might be debris that will impact the safety of that road.
Yes, the officers know that whoever comes out, they have to clean up the area. So, I mean, I've been dealing with tows for 36 years, and I've always stayed behind and made sure, and I've actually helped some of them clean up and pick up stuff, and I would encourage my officers to do that too. But yeah, you always make sure, especially if there's an accident, that the debris is cleaned up.
Ms. Villalobos?
I'm wondering at the accident if the officer can, if they're able to speak to the owner of the vehicle or whoever was driving or whoever is there. Have you called a tow truck? No, okay, we're calling one for you, so that we don't have, it's just a small question. Maybe we could get our police officers to start asking before they start calling.
Well, normally we don't, go back to my history in El Paso. If we call the wrecker, that's it. If another wrecker shows up, sorry, we've already called our wrecker to come out.
Okay, I see.
So that's my experience. That's what I have always done. And if it's our call, if it's an accident, now if it's a stalled vehicle, if it's off the roadway, they have the right to call their own wrecker. But if it's blocking traffic, if it's a traffic hazard, then it's our responsibility to make sure that that is taken up.
Okay. And then my other question, I guess, to those that will be reviewing this is, couldn't we have like 2 fees, one for cleanup, another one for towing? And so if the towing company does both and they get both of the fees, if the other towing company's already there and they do the cleanup, can they pick up the fee and just send the bill? So that's my question. Okay. Well,
Mr. Rodriguez?
We could just reflect the ordinance to reflect that, and we could just do away with that, just like El Paso does.
So you're
they can just look at it and just say, hey, this is our recommendation, and we
So
change
what
the
you're saying,
ordinance.
the ordinance would say that they're also responsible for the pick up the debris?
Yes,
Okay.
because that's what El Paso requires. I looked into it, so that's why. I even called Mr. Duran and asked him, hey, so I looked into it and stuff, and there's language in there that states that, you know what, hey, this is what you're required. And if you're not required, and if you don't meet these requirements, then,
You're not on the
gonna
list.
do business.
And I've been here for almost 6 years, and I've gone to many accidents, and I have never seen either Socorro or Fusion not clean up
Okay.
after themselves. So I've never seen them not do it. They've always cleaned up.
And as far as asking to say, hey, once our officer calls, it's done, that ordinance needs to be, that language needs to also be in place, so that from now on, it won't happen in the cancellations, because I understand that at 2, 3 in the morning, you're coming, picking up your tow, you're on the way, and then for nothing, I mean, it's so
Right.
disheartening, it's something that you're like, okay, so those are issues, and it's time sensitive, I mean, when there's a vehicle out on the street and you need to move it and clean it and stuff like that, for waiting for somebody to come out, because I my buddy has a towing company out in the Northeast. By the time he gets here, I mean, those are issues that we have to address as well. The safety and concern of the rest of our drivers.
Okay.
So that language should be added into,
Mr. Duran?
He wasn't done.
Yeah.
He's trying to get their
that
attention.
language needs to be added to the ordinance when we revise it.
And,
For that?
mhm.
Huh? What? No, no, not only for the debris, but also for the, when our officers go.
Yeah.
One,
Okay.
Okay.
That's why I'm gonna ask
So we-
everybody what they want in
and
there.
then another thing, also timing is very important.
Mhm.
So sometimes these records don't show up for 2 or 3 hours. What does our ordinance say?
No, they're really prompt.
No,
Both
no, and
Socorro
I'm saying,
and,
I understand that, that's why you're here, but we have a rotating list. So, after what, a certain amount, you can cancel them?
usually it's 45 minutes.
Okay. Okay. And can we direct that they are housed locally instead of taking them all the way to Dyer?
Yeah, off the top of my head,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's, I don't know. I know you can use that as criteria when you're awarding the contract, you can use it as criteria, you can not leave it, it's 30 points or 40 points, whatever. I don't know that you can simply make it a requirement that it must be within the city limits.
Or a mile radius that we can't do within the city?
Yeah, and I guess part of it depends on what you're requiring. The ordinance now says the storage facility has to be in the city limits of the ETJ. But you could say, well, your storage facility or your office, they probably have a yard for their own vehicles that's separate from the storage facility, or some of them do. And you want their yard for their vehicles, you need to specify. But, and again, I'm not sure that you could do that with one or all of them.
Okay.
Mr. Perez?
I like that idea, Mr. Martinez, of maybe adding weight in terms of the RFQs or RFPs, however we want to, I guess it's an RFP for tow truck service as part of the rubric that we have. Okay, will you have a 45-minute delivery or arrival time? Yes, no, and then add a point system to that. And then also with your yard, is your yard located in the city of Socorro? And then yes equals whatever amount of points. In process of getting one, another amount of points, however you all decide to do that. But I think that would also give everybody a condensed version of what we're expecting from them.
Okay.
Mr. Duran?
With regards to the time, it's already in the ordinance, and on section, it's a forfeiture of calls. It says that within 45 minutes, they have to be there. And then with regards to debris, it's already in the ordinance. I think it's a matter of just, having them, making them comply with the ordinance. Like, that would be the police officer's duty. And then, if they miss, they can be taken off rotation if they miss going there within 45 minutes 3 times. So I guess I'll need to, did anybody sign up to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Cruz.
Yeah, I was just making the point that, that if we develop a rubric, that way it's a at a glance for the tow truck companies that want to operate here. And they know exactly what the point system will be in order to be able to rank high to be able to operate in the city.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, or I'm just kind of listening to the council discussion here. Or you could ask for your administration's recommendation to either amend the ordinance or redo it through a procurement process. Most of the large metro areas in the state, from time to time, do a procurement process. It's
Mr. Perez?
Because I'm also thinking, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but before I forget, like for example, you might want in that rubric, or is the capacity of towing, like, do you have a vehicle that can tow an 18-wheeler, or, you know, those kinds of things, depending on the type of wreck that it is, that they can provide that service and remove that debris and that vehicle off the roadway, depending on the size of the vehicle. That's what I'm looking at.
We have a
Or
motion right now.
I'll go ahead and amend the motion. I like Jim's suggestion. That way we can you've heard all of our concerns. That way you can come up and give us something back. You know, maybe, yes. You want staff? Yeah. No, we want, like I read my motion in the beginning, I think staff to make recommendations to us for amending the ordinance. Or redoing the procurement of those services.
Second.
Rene Rodríguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Don't we
Mr.
have
Navarro.
speakers?
Sorry. Miriam Cruz.
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I didn't want to yell. I just wanted to, just as a constituent, I'd like to say that I think it is important if we can find a way to keep the cars here, the vehicles here. I think that would be just helpful for everyone. We do live in a poor community where, yeah, maybe everyone has a car, but everyone probably has a job too. And so to get a ride somewhere far out to pick up someone's car, I think it can be a big burden. And so we can find a way to make it a requirement or just a very strong suggestion. If we can make it a requirement, I think we should do our homework. And then I also just wanted to mention, I think one of the gentlemen wanted to talk. I don't know if you guys wanted to make a motion on that. But I like small businesses. I like to support them. So I hope that we can come to a good solution for our city. Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
Did you want to speak?
Oh, he had
Okay,
himself in already.
I'd like to, had he signed up already?
No, he
Okay.
stands on it for the site.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to allow Mr. Sanchez
Mr. Sanchez.
to speak.
Second.
Rene Rodríguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Okay, I heard somebody say a little while ago that we need to go ahead and put this up for bid and only get one tow truck. I've been doing it since Socorro became Socorro. For Socorro, I've been doing my service, so that means that I would probably be out if you hire or let one of these big guys with the big trucks and 4, 5, 6, 7 tow trucks come in. It's not gonna be fair to me. It's just like throwing me out. Thank you for your service, bye, and putting one in. Me and Fusion have never had a problem in the city of Socorro with the police department or anybody complaining about nothing. We do our service, even the officers, we do what we have to do, and we're out of there. We clean up, open the road. 2 of us were doing that, 2 companies. If I could help Fusion, he would call me. So we don't, that's where I say that we don't, what we were doing before, where it was me and Fusion, and the dispatch or Socorro PD would call AD towing only for the big truck. Okay. That's all we needed with a big truck. We could probably get a big truck and have it sitting there because there's not enough work for it. Right. I mean, it's not feasible for us, but that could happen. Even if me and Fusion united, we could have that. So what we were doing was letting AD do the big truck. Now we have 2 companies that have big trucks, Alba and Express. And so if we did a bid, of course we're out because they have more trucks than we do. But as far as the city's concerned and what we have been doing for the city, there hasn't been no complaints, and we have covered the city for anything and everything that they have called us out for. So that's, and about the ET8 or when they cancel you out, that you all have an understanding that if you're not hooked up, you're not, it's not like that. It's always been if the wrecker shows up, that's it. That wrecker has to pick up that accident because he was called out to it. It's not about me backing into it or just staying there and then some other company comes and because they call that private company, that I'm out. It's not a hookup, it's just arriving. And once you're there, that's yours. I had an incident the other day where I was called out at 3 in the morning, and when I got there, Express Towing was already loading. So I did call the dispatch, and I said, what happened there? That's the kind of cancellations that we don't want. You know, if we're called out by dispatch, we should handle that accident. He was already there loading up, so something happened there. And that's what I'm trying to get across to the chief. And any other, do you have any questions for me? Because I can answer, but I just can't think right now.
Mr. Perez?
No, Mr. Sanchez, no, thank you for providing that input, because that was the question, because believe me, the last thing I want is to be an obstacle to our local businesses. So if they have a way of getting those problems solved when a bigger truck is required and not putting them out of competition for the city. So thank you for doing that. And so I think that if we can rewrite the ordinance or provide the procurement service, the RFP, to where, if at all possible and always legal, that we would support and promote our local businesses.
What is legal is that if they are in the city, you can give them extra points for being in the city.
Yeah, there's a number of ways. I mean, if the administration's recommendation is to redo the procurement process, send out an RFP and council wishes to proceed with that,
Right.
there's a number of ways you could. Yeah, award points for having a location in the city, award points for your past history on that contract with the city. There's a lot of ways.
Okay.
Mr. Uran?
Lieutenant, can the police band be monitored? In other words, say there's an accident, no? So then nobody can listen in. Okay.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm just gonna clean out my comments. What I said is, we need to look at every single avenue so that we can provide the best quality service to our constituents. So that's what we said. I said, of course, you know, if we have to go out for bids or give it to somebody, just one company, and we don't need these headaches or whatever the cause might be, we're not taking that action. We're looking at possibilities of doing that or making a list of 3 or something. But I know that we're outdated on this ordinance. We're going to see if staff recommends changing the ordinance to reflect the Socorro way. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to see what our staff is gonna recommend to us. So it's not set on concrete. You guys are still gonna be able to do business here in the city of Socorro. All we're gonna do is we're gonna give it out to staff. Staff is gonna make a recommendation, and we're gonna take that in consideration. After they present to us what we're going to do, then we'll make the appropriate adjustments to finding a solution. And that's what we're gonna do. So it doesn't mean just because I said, hey, we're just gonna, no. I'm just saying, look at all the options and present us the best option for us. Because of course, you know, like we all believe, you know, we should all be working together. You know, we have to consider that, you know, some of the companies that do business with the city of Socorro has been here since even before the city was a city. So we will take everything into consideration when it comes up here in council. So just rest assured that we are gonna look into it. So don't worry about it, you know, but I have to let everybody aware that we have to look at all the options, and then we're gonna try to see what fits for us. Okay?
Like El Paso Towing went back to rotation. They're on rotation. They have 6 or 7 companies.
No, and I understand, and that's why we're we're gonna look at all the options, so don't think that.
And when I say about the debris, I'm talking about SISD working an accident on Moon Road, Horizon, calling me out, and when I get there, AD's there, they left a bunch of debris there. I'm talking about the sheriff's department working an accident at 2, 3 in the morning, and whoever they call, leave the debris there. That's what I'm talking about, not being right, that somebody should address that before they leave, they pick up all that, because it's reflecting on us, it looks bad.
Right, because we make the assumption that it's the providers that are providing the service to the city of Socorro. Whether it's another different agency, you know, then it reflects on us because it's in our streets. And we get it and we understand, and that's why our city manager is paying attention to what you guys are saying, and we will address those issues as well.
Okay,
Ms.
So
Alamos?
thank you very much.
thank you.
Mr. Sanchez and your family and those that came out here, thank you for bringing this item. I did not know we had a problem with our wrecking service. I still believe we should monitor the companies a little bit closer, like every 6 months, only because we need to see what the trend is, and to make sure that we are providing services. Mr. Sanchez, you mentioned you have your own holding facility here. Has the city of El Paso ever used your facility to hold vehicles?
The city of El Paso, they used to, if there's a stolen vehicle, we would put it in our impound. DPS would use our oil changing, to run a car over it and inspect the car underneath, and we would hold them.
But that is no longer true.
No.
That is no longer true. And see, that's what I'm saying. Why should we be taking our vehicles all the way to Dyer? I'm gonna tell you something. My first husband passed away in a car accident. And I remember I had to go somewhere in the middle of central El Paso for the vehicle when the accident happened a few steps away from Fabens on I-10. So I had to go all the way down there when the vehicle could have been closer. Closer. I remember at that time, many moons ago, young, I was like, why did they take it all the way over there? So it was, anyways, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
Ivan Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
Item number 11, discussion and action on charter amendments for the 2020 general election. Mr. Rodriguez?
Okay, since we're talking about the charter amendments, I'm just gonna say, I have a couple, and a couple is like 3, that's it. And then we can.
So it's a triple, not a couple.
So it's a triple, yeah. And then Mr. Duran, when I was talking to Mr. Duran about this, because this is what he was saying, is that then after that, then we can just go through every single one by one. But I think my 3 are very easy. And if we agree, then we can just say, hey, we agree, and then at the end, make the motion. I know that we're not gonna be able to finish it off. I just want these 3 because it's either yes or no. One is, the contract for our city manager is 2 years, but yet our terms are already 4 years. And El Paso has it at 5 years, because they want continuity of government. And each and every single one of us have that institutional knowledge that we carry. So with that, I believe that her contract should be extended as well as 4 years, so that it could reflect ours, because regardless, there's a lot of issues that plague the city, and if we do a 4-year, then it'll be easier for us to know. So that one is one. If we agree, then it's fine. The other issue is term limits. I think that we should do away with the term limits, or at least add 3 years. The reason why is because it goes back to the same thing I said prior. And it is because we have institutional knowledge, and therefore there's projects, and I'll say this, is look at Old Waco tanks. When I came in here, it was just an inception, it was just a concept, and look, it took me 4.5 years to make that into reality. So, Mr. Bettis, you know, you were here for that. So it's one of those things that if we were in term limits, then there's a possibility that the projects that we put forward will not come to fruition if we only have the 2 years. Two terms. The 2 terms. So that's the other one. And the third one, I just drew a blank on the third one.
While you remember that, real quick, on the city manager, 4 years, to reflect in concurrence with our term, we should say city manager and not her, because.
Oh, yes,
it
of
could
course,
be-
city manager, sorry,
Yes.
her, I mean, I know.
Yes.
It was something that I was just going through.
Just wanted to
Like I
correct
say,
it
the
for the
manager's
record.
position, the manager's contract.
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
City manager.
City manager's contract
Yes, sir.
should
Mr.
reflect.
And
Mr.
I-
Perez?
Well, go ahead.
Mr. Perez, it's Mr. Perez.
So before we continue, I think there's some inconsistencies in the charter when it has to do with terms, right? Because if we're increasing the terms, right now, I think it reflects 3 years, not 4. And then the plurality instead of majority, the runoff election, that needs to be corrected, that I had noticed, and also I think the way to stagger terms. We need to fix that because that was changed in 2011.
Very quickly, if I may, Madam Mayor. I agree with the idea of expanding or extending the contract of the city manager to 4 years. Because what happens is that when it's 2 years, that's when, and not that it's happened here, but it can get political with whomever holds the position, that, you know, some of the council members, the city manager doesn't do what I want, or that, you know, it gets that kind of, it gets political that way. And so when you have, and so when it's every 2 years, it's easier for it to become political rather than 4 year, where you have to give it some thought as to, are we going to keep this person, and making sure that that you're you're evaluating them correctly, not on the whim, that you want to get, you know, you get the idea of, oh, well, we need a new city manager, whomever holds the position, so let's get rid of them. And so I think that lends itself for it to become less political.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Rodriguez?
So my thing is, since we agree on that, Jim, since we're carving it out little by little, do we say, okay, we agree on that, or do we have to wait till the last decision to make the?
Yeah, for discussion and action.
Yep.
Discussion and action.
Yeah, discussion and action.
Yeah, I think, you have some flexibility. You could approve those now. I mean, you can't approve them. Ultimately, it's gonna be ballot, an ordinance.
Right.
Calling an election with specific
We're
ballot
all-
language. My point, yes, to answer your question directly, you have some options. It'd probably be prudent to do it in the form of instructions to your admin. Say, look, here's the ones that we're approving for now. Put that on the approved list. Here are the ones that are on the bubble. They're just considering, leave that on the TBA list.
Well,
And then the next
So,
meeting will bring whatever you've already put it in writing.
so my next, the question, just to get some clarification, since I think we have consensus whether we wanna put the contract, do we just say, do we take a poll now and just say, hey, do we agree? And just put it on?
Yes, you can. For anything that you can vote on all of them, and anyone that passes, you can have the admin, I would say, my recommendation, have them put it on the approved list so that they can keep track of what's approved. Yeah, ultimately, I don't think you wanna come back with specific language or ballot language yet.
No, of course.
That's down the road.
It's just to say, hey, this is, we all, for example, would I just say, I would make a motion to put it on a list to say that, it'll reflect our terms for the city, manager's contract, to reflect from going from 2 to 4 years?
Yeah.
And then we just say aye, or no.
I think the motion would be to have the admin maintain a running list of the.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Maintain a list.
Technically approved charter amendments.
So I make a motion to put it on a list,
Running list.
a running list?
and then I think that we need to, I'm sorry, I think we need to also, if we're starting, then take it apart in order. So, for example, if we want for the next city council meeting to to do Articles 1 through whatever, that we read them,
I think
and then we,
that's better.
and then we come back,
You took the words out of my mouth.
and that way we have some clear thought as to what we wanna include or omit or whatever, and then,
And we're not jumping all over
Yeah.
the place.
Also, in the very end, I added the November 2020 and then the articles. And then in the back, just your amendments. That way you can take it home and if you're thinking of something, you can kind of write
Yeah.
the article, the amendment number, and then just write
Okay.
what you're thinking, that way we can come back at it.
I didn't, yeah.
because I think that there's, this document needs a complete facelift. And I think that we need to just piecemeal it, logically. And I agree that there, some of you have some very valid points, but I think that we need to address them as they come up, as we divide the article, or rather the document in order.
So you wanna go through
The first one?
page 1?
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
divided into how many sections, how many meetings, how many sections?
Oh, we
No,
can
the
tell-
meeting's already set.
No, how
Yeah, 'cause-
many meetings do we have after this for this?
Well, you have to have the amendments ready by August. That was the one you received, August of next year.
Yeah.
For the November.
For the
We just
November
go through
2020.
these.
So by August, so we started fairly early, so every meeting, there will be a workshop at the very end, like you saw today.
Mhm.
And that way, if you have time, or you want to table it, we can discuss it, we have plenty of time.
Well, there's, how many articles are there?
There is a total of
We can just divide them. 15?
If we do them in threes,
15.
if we do them in threes,
Do
Okay.
1 through 5?
huh?
Do 1 through 5 tonight?
1 to 3.
Or 1 to 3?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that way we can, like, for example, tonight we can go home, and between now and the next meeting, look at them, look at the three, and then make comments, and then come back with the changes.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll,
Okay, well, three, and.
And-
Yeah, and that makes it easier for us.
And for,
And it's not over, I mean, we can take it with a little bit of, not, as they say in Spanish, calma, but at least we can take our time to, calma, with calm, to look over the
Ms. Villalobos?
We have a Word document of this article, so what we will have staff do is start writing it. That would, because it has a lot of typos and.
You think?
It's that, so we'll start writing it from scratch, and then that way whatever amendments we make, we can kind of change the verbiage, but we'll start getting solutions.
Yeah, and then can we agree, Madam Mayor,
Mr. Perez?
that typos and those things,
That is, that falls on you.
An administrative thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's like, yeah, that falls on you.
on the staff, because that, it
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
Because getting to,
That's where the 2 additional years come into play.
Ms. Villalobos?
Are we gonna have, some of these ordinances are having to do with our other administrative or directors of the city. Will we have their input on all this as well?
This is charter amendments,
Right?
not ordinances.
charter.
No, I understand, but some of this stuff has nothing, I mean, some of this stuff here, are the people that actually are, part of, that actually work with us day and night, should have some input, don't you think?
They're gonna vote.
Okay.
For their input.
Yeah.
Uh-huh,
And that's why it's like me telling you, well, for the city manager,
Mhm.
I want, or I recommend.
but why not? I mean,
Mayor?
why not? Because what if, I'm not being fair, and you're like, well, that's gonna, they don't see it from my point of view. I would like to hear your point of view, because I could come in here and say, I read Terrell's, and they say, and, it's not one size fits all, so.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Just to answer your question, we've tried to tackle this, 3 years ago, and we couldn't get enough people. And I am not going to appoint somebody that started this document, okay? And because some of these people that started the charter amendments, some of those people have broken the laws. Some of those people have done stuff that is not right. So I will never go and appoint somebody.
No,
with-
that's
no,
not what I'm saying.
And my whole thing is, we couldn't find people to come and do that. And the people that want it have self-interest. And that's why we are taking it upon ourselves to say what is best for the city now.
But I think,
Mr.
correct me if I'm
Perez?
wrong, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. But I think what she's saying is that in terms of practicality, that the staff members that deal with, that, for example, have, let's say, oh, this should be in the charter, this would make it better. That they can express that issue or that concern. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna,
Approve it.
we'll take it under advisement, but certainly have them, afford them the opportunity to say, you know what, this really doesn't work in day-to-day operations, this doesn't work. That kind of thing.
Oh, no,
No.
and I totally agree, Mr. Perez, with you.
I know.
All I'm saying is,
That's exactly
we
what he
need to
said.
do it first, and then we go give it to staff, and if we want to, hey, staff, look at what we're making this decision, that we're looking at changing, and if it doesn't fall into what we want or what it needs to happen, then they can recommend some changes.
I think that, and this may create a little more work, I'm not sure. We all know that for the next meeting, we're gonna have the first three articles. In that time, between now and then, you can ask staff. Council's gonna cover the first three articles. Do you have any suggestions that
That'll work.
will
That'll work.
help in the day-to-day operations of the city? And then they report, they give that to Adriana, those concerns to Adriana, and she being the go-between the staff and us, she'll present, well, for this item, staff recommended this. Is it something that you
I
understand?
agree.
I
agree.
totally agree. Thank you so much for stepping in. That's something that I wanted to make sure that, because if we're gonna rewrite this, it's gonna cost a lot of money, a lot of time. Why not do it right, try to do it the right way the first time? Because my interest could be something here that it's really not my interest, or I really don't have a lot of knowledge on it, and who's better than the people that are actually working through these, that can come and say, this has never worked for us, and it's just, hindering us in reality. So, thank you.
I agree.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
So then for the next meeting, we're gonna go ahead and review Articles 1 through 3, which is page 1 through 15, and we'll have
Make a motion to
recommendations.
Review, Articles 1 to 3 for the next meeting.
Second.
Rene Rodríguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Is there,
Yes.
oh,
Yes.
okay.
And discuss.
Excuse me.
Articles 1.
I wanted to say a couple of things. I'm glad you all are dividing it up. I think it's a good process. I think that's something that maybe the Planning and Zoning Commission can learn from. Because I went to the workshop last week and it was very all over the place. And so I'm glad that that was a suggestion, and I'm glad you guys are going to do that. I would like to point out that workshop is a little misleading if you all are going to be taking action. Maybe it could be workshop with action, I don't know, but I know that the agenda item says you will be taking action, but most workshops, you guys don't take action. So I don't know how we can be clear to the public so that they know that these are items that, one, they can speak at, two, you're gonna be adding stuff to this list. So I think that would just be important. Third, I'd like to suggest that the Ethics Commission be placed on this charter. I don't know if that's something y'all were thinking about doing. I know that it's not. I know that I believe the mayor was able to create it because there's an ability for you to create it, but I think it would be important for that to be included into the charter, just like the other commissions that are in place. Thank you.
Rene Rodríguez.
aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Pérez.
Aye.
And Iván Colom Villalobos.
Yes.
I'll pick up a hard I'm sorry. I have it.
old school.
I have
I
it.
like to.
Yes.
I have it.
Some people like to have
Type it out.
someone read it.
Ah,
Oh.
It's true, too.
Esos son los demás de edad. Yo no estoy-
Do we have anything on executive session?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Make a motion to move into executive?
Second.
Rene Rodriguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Pérez.
Aye.
And Iván Colom Villalobos.
yes.
7:30, we're now in executive session.